Unit 15 Nervous System Part 2 Human Nervous System. We the human beings differ from other animals in our ability to think and take actions, which is due to the well-developed nervous system. Human nervous system is differentiated into central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and autonomic nervous system. The central nervous system acts as center for information processing and control. It consists of the brain and the spinal cord. Central nervous system is formed of two types of matter such as white matter or grey matter with respect to the presence or absence of myelin sheath. The brain is the controlling center of all the body activities. It is covered by three connective tissue membrane or meninges: dura mater, arachnoid membrane, pia mater. Dura mater. Dura means tough. Matter means membrane. Is the outermost thick fibrous membrane. Arachnoid membrane. Arachnoid spider is the middle thin vascular membrane providing web-like cushion. Pia mater, pia soft or tender, is the innermost thin delicate membrane richly supplied with blood. Meningeal membranes protect the brain from mechanical injury. Structure of human brain. A human brain is formed of three main parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Forebrain. The forebrain is formed of cerebrum and diencephalon. The latter consists of dorsal thalamus and ventral hypothalamus. First one, cerebrum. It is the largest portion forming nearly 2/3 of the brain. The cerebrum is longitudinally divided into two halves as right and left cerebral hemisphere by a deep cleft called median cleft. Two cerebral hemispheres are interconnected by thick band of nerve fibers called corpus callosum. The outer portion of each cerebral hemisphere is formed of grey matter and is called cerebral cortex. The inner or deeper part is formed of white matter and is called cerebral medulla. Each cerebral hemisphere is divisible into a frontal lobe, a parietal lobe, a temporal lobe, and an occipital lobe. These lobes are also known as cerebral lobes and are associated with specific functions. Any damage in specific lobe in turn affects its function. The cerebrum is responsible for the thinking, intelligence, consciousness, memory, imagination, reasoning, and willpower. Next, thalamus and hypothalamus. Thalamus present in cerebral medulla is a major conducting center for sensory and motor signaling. It acts as a relay center. Hypothalamus. It lies at the base of the thalamus. It controls involuntary functions like hunger, thirst, sleep, sweating, sexual desire, anger, fear, water balance, blood pressure, etc. It acts as a thermoregulatory, means temperature control, center of the body. It controls the secretion of hormones from anterior pituitary gland and is an important link between nervous system and endocrine system. Midbrain. It is located between thalamus and hindbrain. The dorsal portion of the midbrain consists of four rounded bodies called corpora quadrigemina that control visual and auditory reflexes. Hindbrain. It is formed of three parts: cerebellum, pons, medulla oblongata. Cerebellum. It is the second largest part of the brain, formed of two large-sized hemispheres and middle vermis. It coordinates voluntary movements and also maintains body balance. Pons. Pons is a Latin word meaning bridge. It is a bridge of nerve fiber that connects the lobes of cerebellum. It relays signals between the cerebellum, spinal cord, midbrain, and cerebrum. It controls respiration and sleep cycle. Medulla. Medulla is the posterior most part of the brain that connects spinal cord and various parts of brain. It has cardiac centers, respiratory centers, vasomotor centers to control heartbeat, respiration, and contractions of blood vessels respectively. It also regulates vomiting and salivation. Functions of brain. Cerebral cortex, sensory perception, control of voluntary functions, language, thinking, memory, decision making, creativity. Thalamus acts as relay station. Hypothalamus, temperature control, thirst, hunger, urination, important link between nervous system and endocrine glands. Cerebellum, maintenance of posture and balance, coordinate voluntary muscle activity. Pons and medulla, role in sleep awake cycle, cardiovascular, respiratory and digestive control centers. Structure of spinal cord. It is a cylindrical structure lying in the neural canal of the vertebral column. It extends from the lower end of medulla to first lumbar vertebra. It is also covered by meninges. Posterior end tapers into a thin, fibrous, thread-like structure called phylum terminale. Internally, it contains a cerebrospinal fluid filled cavity known as central canal. The inner grey matter is H-shaped. The upper end forms posterior horns and the lower end forms anterior horns. A bundle of fibers pass into the posterior horn forming dorsal or afferent root. Fibers pass outward from the anterior horn forming ventral or efferent root. These two roots join to form spinal nerves. The white matter is external have bundle of nerve tract. Spinal cord thus conducts sensory and motor impulses to and from the brain. It controls reflux actions of the body. Cerebrospinal fluid. The brain is suspended in a special fluid environment called cerebrospinal fluid. It is lymph-like, watery fluid that surrounds and protects the brain within the skull. It also fills the central canal of the spinal cord. Functions. It acts as shock absorbing fluid and protects the brain from damage when it is subjected to sudden jerk. It supplies nutrients to the brain. It collects and removes waste from the brain. It is also responsible for maintaining a constant pressure inside the cranium. Reflux action. A reflex is any response that occurs automatically without consciousness. There are two types of reflexes: simple or basic reflexes. These reflexes are inbuilt and unlearned responses. Example: winking of eyes when any dust particles enters, sneezing, coughing, yawning, etc. We perform these actions without thinking. Acquired or conditioned reflexes. These reflexes are the result of practice and learning. Playing harmonium by striking a particular key on seeing a music note is an example of conditioned reflexes. The pathway taken by nerve impulse to accomplish reflex action is called reflex arc. Now let us understand how the body executes reflex action when we touch a hot plate. When we touch a very hot pan, the stimulus is the heat, which is sensed by receptor called as heat receptors or thermoreceptors in our hand. This stimulus in turn triggers an impulse in sensory neuron. The sensory neuron transmits or conveys the message to the spinal cord. Spinal cord interprets the stimulus and the impulse is passed on to the relay neuron, which in turn transmit it to a motor neuron. Motor neurons carry command from spinal cord to our arm. Muscle in our arm contracts and we withdraw our hand immediately from the pan. In this example, muscle is an effector organ which has responded to the heat. Peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system is formed by the nerves arising from the brain and the spinal cord. The nerves arising from the brain are called cranial nerves. Nerves arising from spinal cord are called spinal nerves. Cranial nerves. In man, there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Some of the cranial nerves are sensory. Example, optic nerve, which innervates the eye. Some are motor nerves, which helps in rotation of the eyeball. It also innervates the eye muscles, muscles of the iris and tear gland. Spinal nerves. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Each spinal nerve has a dorsal sensory root and the ventral motor root. The direction of impulses in dorsal spinal root is towards the spinal cord and in ventral spinal root away from the spinal cord. Autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system is also called as visceral nervous system. It regulates the function of internal visceral organs of our body through its two antagonistic component, sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. They enable the body to perform rapid and specific visceral activities in order to maintain steady state. It controls the involuntary functions of the visceral organ.